Yo trabajo en casa, trabajo en casa. Yo quiero aprender español, quiero aprender español, and both versions are correct. But native speakers usually don't need the pronoun yo. But if a Spanish has a word for I, why does it disappear so often if we use it so much? Well, let's find out together because we're going to talk about the pronoun yo. Hey, amigos y amigas, look at this. Trabajo en casa. Who works from home? And I know you know. In this case, I do. But how do we know? Because we have a verb that gives us the information we need. Trabajo. That is the verb trabajar conjugated for the first person singular. So, compare. Trabajo, I work. Trabajas, you work. Trabajamos, we work. The ending changes depending on who's doing the action. So, Spanish often doesn't need a separate pronoun. English does. You can't normally say, work from home, when you mean I work from home. English needs I work from home, but Spanish can simply say trabajo desde casa. The information that English puts in the pronoun I, Spanish can often communicate it through the verb itself. Sounds fantastic, isn't it? It is. And this isn't only true with the pronoun yo, actually. Spanish drops pronouns constantly. And look at this conversation. Attention. ¿Dónde vive María? Where does María live? Vive en Madrid. She lives in Madrid. We don't need ella vive en Madrid. We already know we are talking about María. But let me show you another example. Juan y Ana están cansados. Juan and Ana are tired. Quieren irse a casa. They want to go home. We don't need ellos quieren irse a casa. The context already tells us who. Ellos. Sounds logical, right? So the bigger pattern isn't Spanish drops yo. It is Spanish often drops subject pronouns when the subject is already clear. That includes yo, tú, él, ella, nosotros, nosotras, ellos, and ellas. But look at this. Why the conjugation matters? You may be wondering. This is one reason Spanish conjugation carries so much information. Look at this. Hablo, hablas, hablamos y hablan. You don't necessarily need yo hablo, tú hablas, nosotros hablamos, ellos hablan because the verb ending is already doing part of that word. And this happens across different tenses. Trabajo aquí, I work here. Trabajé aquí, I work here. Trabajaba aquí, I used to work here. Trabajaré aquí, I will work here. No yo is necessary. The verb tells us both the action and information about the person doing it. That's why learning conjugations isn't just about grammar tables, about grammar rules. Those endings carry information that English usually expresses somewhere else. But here's the important part. Spanish doesn't always drop the pronoun. Sometimes saying yo changes the feeling of the sentence. Imagine someone says, Juan no quiere ir. Juan doesn't want to go. You respond, yo quiero ir. I want to go. Here, yo matters. But why? To show contrast. Juan doesn't want to go, but I do. Compare that with quiero ir. I want to go. That's simply information. Yo quiero ir, I want to go. Now, there's emphasis on who is doing it. Let me show you another example. Ella habla francés, pero yo hablo español. She speaks French, but I speak Spanish. The pronouns create a contrast. Ella versus yo. That's exactly when Spanish likes to keep them. Now imagine someone asks, ¿Quién hizo eso? Who did this? You would answer, yo lo hice. I did it. You could technically say, lo hice. But that isn't quite the same. The question is specifically who. So Spanish emphasizes the person. Yo lo hice. Yo no dije eso. I didn't say that. Imagine someone accuses you of saying something, like the classic gossip. Vicky comes here and, hey, wait, you said that. No, wait, yo no dije eso. You're not simply reporting, I didn't say that. You're emphasizing, I wasn't the person who said it. That's why the pronoun becomes useful. And there's one more reason Spanish sometimes needs the pronoun. Not emphasize, clarity. Remember what we said earlier. The verb ending often tells you who's doing the action, but not always perfectly. Look at this. Trabajaba en Madrid. This could mean I was working in Madrid, he was working in Madrid, she was working in Madrid. The verb trabajaba doesn't distinguish between all three. Usually, context solves the problem. Cuando vivía en España, trabajaba en Madrid. If we have already established that I'm talking about myself, it's easy. There's not a problem. But if the subject isn't clear, Spanish can bring the pronoun back. Yo trabajaba en Madrid, pero ella trabajaba en Barcelona. Now the pronouns help us distinguish the two people. So Spanish doesn't drop pronouns because they are useless. It drops them because they are unnecessary. And that's an important difference. That's why, this is where learners can go too far. Because sometimes you would learn like, hey, native speakers don't say yo. Like, I'm gonna erase them completely. And suddenly they try to remove every single pronoun. That's not the goal. The better question is, does the listener already know who's doing the action? If yes, you probably don't need the pronoun. You don't need to repeat I in Spanish. Yo. You would say, estoy cansado, quiero comer, llegamos mañana, viven aquí. But if you're creating contrast, yo quiero ir, pero él no. Hey, keep those pronouns. If you're emphasizing the subject, yo lo hice. Keep the pronoun. If the sentence would otherwise be ambiguous, ella trabajaba aquí. Keep the pronoun. The pronoun has a job. Spanish simply doesn't make it work when it's unnecessary. English trains you to build sentences like this, I want, I think, I need, I love, I have. The subject has to be there. So beginners naturally transfer that pattern into Spanish. Yo quiero, yo pienso, yo necesito, yo tengo, yo sé. None of those sentences are grammatically wrong, and that's important. But if the conversation is already clearly about you, Spanish usually doesn't need the pronoun. You can simply say quiero, pienso, necesito, tengo, sé. That's one small change that can make your Spanish sound much, much natural. Attention. Compare this. Yo tengo hambre, and both are correct. But in a normal situation, you'll usually hear tengo hambre. But now imagine two people, and you want to say ella no tiene hambre, pero yo tengo mucha hambre. Now, yo makes sense. It's contrastive. Yo vivo en Argentina, that's correct. But if someone asks, ¿dónde vives? You can simply answer, vivo en Argentina. The question already established that we're talking about you. Repeating the pronoun doesn't add much. That's the habit you want to develop. Don't automatically translate I to yo before every single verb. First, ask whether Spanish actually needs it. So, as a recap, Spanish can drop subject pronouns because the verb and the context often already tell us who's doing the action. So instead of always saying, yo quiero aprender español, you can simply say, quiero aprender español. Very simple. But don't turn that into another absolute rule. Use yo when you need it. For contrast, él no quiere, pero yo sí. Clarity, yo trabajaba en Madrid y ella trabajaba en Barcelona. or emphasis. Yo lo hice. So the goal isn't never say yo, it's stop saying yo when Spanish already makes the subject clear. But now it's your turn. Write one sentence about yourself without using yo. Actually, write 3 sentences together. Like, yo soy Juan, vivo en Buenos Aires y como mucha pizza. I don't know. Hey, 1 sentence is more than enough. Well, in this case, 3 sentences together about you. I'll make sure to correct them. I'll be right there in the comments. And amigos, amigas, if this helped you understand why Spanish drops subjects pronouns, make sure to like the video, subscribe y nos vemos en el próximo video. Chao.